an inspiring public speaker, computer scientist, psychologist, and philanthropist. She has been a high-tech and clean-tech investor since 1995. She's got an MS degree in artificial intelligence and computer science from the University of Karlsruhe, Germany, and she's currently enrolled in a PhD program at ITP in Palo Alto. I give you Mariana Bozesan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. It's such an amazing, extraordinary pleasure. I'm so humbled to be here in front of you today. I've witnessed you all for 2 sessions now, and I cannot stop wondering and admiring you for your courage, for the amazing amount of work that you're putting into this effort, and I am deeply, deeply honored to be sharing with you a couple of hours of my life on such a beautiful evening, and thank you all for coming. The topic of my speech tonight is how the body speaks and why we must listen. And I want this to be a workshop on life and well-being. Therefore, I would really, really appreciate if you would contribute, if you would make this talk yours, because this is all about us together. We're not different from one another at all. We are all on the same path of discovering who we really, really, really are. So, to begin the workshop, I would really encourage you to open your heart and your minds, which is what you're already doing, and close your eyes and take a deep breath. And come into the room and take another deep breath. And as you take this deep breath, lead that breathing, that breath, into the areas of your body that maybe feel tense right now. Maybe you're excited, maybe it hurts. Maybe you need to go to the bathroom. Maybe there's something that you're wondering what's going on in your body. So take another deep breath and go in there. And that breath, allow the breath to take that tension away. As you breathe out, let that tension go into the universe and breathe in again. And feel your body. And say thank you. Go to your heart and thank your heart for beating in your chest at least 70 times every minute. Thousands of times a day, millions of times during your lifetime. Have you ever thanked your heart? Thank your liver. Thank your lungs. Thank your brain. Thank your legs who brought you here. And most of all, thank your destiny. Thank yourself for being here today, tonight, while other people don't have anything to eat or water to drink. And we're all here well fed in this beautiful room. And we all deserve to say thank you. Take another deep breath. And forgive every single one, every person, including yourself, for every trespasses, everything that they did to you that you may still hold a grudge against. Forgive yourself for things that you've done in the past, today, maybe on the way when you came here. Say, I let it go. Allow that space to come in and feel your aliveness. Take another deep breath and come into the room. Whenever you're ready, open your eyes. you got a sense of how your body speaks. And maybe also an idea as to why we must listen. And I'm sure you do listen, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. And yet today I would like to bring a different perspective on the body, mind, and the spirit, on the universe that we live in today. And I have 3 outcomes. The first outcome is I would like to introduce you to a new paradigm on consciousness leadership and why knowledge is not power. And all of you know that knowledge in itself is not power. The second outcome is I would like to present to you, to introduce to you 3 paths to consciousness leadership, a model that I have developed over 40 years of my life, actually. And how that leads to smart life, the life that you're actually leading here. You are ahead of the curve. You are consciousness leaders. And this is the reason why I have agreed to give this speech here. And that may become clear later. As I illustrate this consciousness leadership model in introducing to you 8 secrets to integral health and vitality, which I have outlined in my book, Diet for a New Life. Diet for a New Life because I don't believe in diets, because they don't work. So what is consciousness leadership and why is knowledge not power? Well, this is very tightly connected with my outcome in life. I was born and raised, as Mike said, I was born and raised in communist Romania. And I went to school very often without food. Those of you in the room may not know what that means. You do? Yes, welcome. She told me that her first preferred doll was a little elephant. Well, I received my first doll at age 7. My toes are crooked because I didn't have the right shoes, and my parents couldn't afford any, and they couldn't buy even if they could have had afford them. There weren't any available. And that, of course, set me on a course in my life that led me here to be here today. Because one day I decided that I will never, ever, ever be poor again. I wanted to get out of misery. I wanted to have enough food. I wanted to have an abundance of everything. I wanted to have as many cars that I could afford. And I wanted to have a bank account that would allow me to buy everything and anything I ever wanted. And guess what? I got there. And guess what? I was not happy. At age 16, my parents and I left Romania to go to Germany. I'm a German citizen. I'm actually a citizen of the world. I love this country. And with that, the whole world opened to me. And of course, I took advantage of all the beautiful opportunities to study. I studied computer science. I became a high-tech entrepreneur. I was one of the first and the only woman to be sent by the German academic exchange to Stanford. I became a serial entrepreneur. I became an angel investor, venture capitalist, called today. I invested in the first internet company that went public on the German stock exchange. And so my dream of material abundance turned true. As you know, everything that we focus on, we eventually get, hopefully, sometimes. We think. We want to believe that. I have come to believe that this is not necessarily true, not in all areas. So I had to learn a lesson. The lesson was that suffering has a noble purpose. Because one day, we had multiple homes around the world. We had every single car that BMW would manufacture. I have a beautiful family. I have a wonderful son. I have been blessed beyond measure. Excuse my English is not. I speak 5 languages, so English is one of them. I'm married to the love of my life that I've been in love with for 25 years. I have beautiful, beautiful family, extraordinary parents without which I would not be here, and we all live together. I have a blessed life. And yet one day I woke up and I was 38 pounds overweight. I had low thyroid and I didn't know it. I didn't know it. I had been bloated. I suffered from intestinal diseases of all kinds for more than 20 years. I have been a yo-yo dieter for more than 20 years. I have tried every single diet on this face on this planet. I would lose weight and gain it again, only to have more than I had before. You know the story, nothing new. And most of all, I was not happy. Deep down in my heart, there was something missing. And you know what? I didn't have a framework in my head, in my scientifically driven mind. I did not have a framework, where to go, what to do to achieve that happiness. Because what I had dealt with up until then, those were egoic obsessions. And I had to overcome those, and I didn't even know what ego meant, other than somebody is an egocentric person. But I didn't have a measure to go beyond that. So what I did what I always did. I just started to go and study, meet with every single person who is an expert on diets. And I could afford it. So I traveled around the world for 3 years. I studied with Deepak Chopra. You have the list, and you will find more. Deepak Chopra, Elson Haas, Dean Ornish, John Gray. I'll tell you later why I studied with John Gray. Actually, you will tell me later. I even met with Al Gore because I needed to find an answer to how I could lose those pounds and regain my health and vitality, because the body was talking to me in a way that I wasn't used to. In my mechanistic scientific worldview, I didn't have a notion that the body could not be controlled. All the problems can be solved. You just learn the rules, go after them in business. Success is achievable. You learn the rules, follow them. Eventually, if you never give up, you achieve that. But when it came to a physical body, that didn't work anymore. And yet, I still went for the best. And I did. I finally achieved. I lost my weight, and I learned all these, found out about these people, and they taught me. I studied people who have actually lost weight and kept it for more than 5 years. That was so important to me, because there is a solution to overweight and obesity in our country. However, that solution has to be integral. We cannot look at a human being only at the fat that is hanging around the parts. That doesn't work. So there are 3 paths to consciousness leadership. The first path is, what do I want? And we've been talking all evening today, about the external, the exteriority. We look at the sky and we see stars. We look at the physical body and we see something that is tangible. We believe that this is all there is. Yet every single scientist will tell you that as you look at the sky, that's less than 0.0005% of what exists. 99.9% is empty space, is information and energy. And yet, we spend our life, I did, looking in the wrong way. So the second thing that I identified what these consciousness leaders do, people who really have managed, I'm sorry, I'm standing in front of some people's, consciousness leaders, the people that I've studied with, they look at life from different perspectives. One is the exterior, but most of all, they have found a way to look at the interior. They want to know, why do they want what they want? What will it give them? There is an interior aspect that has to be taken into consideration, that goes beyond medical results, that goes beyond what we can do, that has to do with the being aspect. That is the space between the stars. And path number 3 is sustainable happiness possible. And yes, sustainable happiness is possible. I've learned from these consciousness leaders, because if you live a life of meaning that is integral, that addresses all areas of life, not only the physical body, not only the material independence, not only the career, but all aspects of life, then happiness is truly possible, is sustainable. So what are the 8 steps that took me to write this integral book on diet, and that led, how should I say, well, that I will tell you in detail about. So the journey begins. What do I want? What I wanted was to lose weight and find a way that will be able to enable me to keep it. So what these people who have lost, in one case, the 275 pounds, I couldn't believe, 275 pounds. What these people do is they address all these areas of life, and this is what I'm going to talk about. Push the wrong button. So these are the 8 steps: the nutrition, exercise, detoxification. This is where the journey within begins, living a life of meaning, how they handle their emotions, because that's such an important aspect. And I don't know, I haven't been attending these sessions, but this is an important aspect that needs to be addressed also in a group like the emotional aspect. How can you make it a habit so that you keep whatever you've learned, whatever you have, for instance, here, how is it possible to take those pills? How is it possible to take those vitamins on a regular basis and forever, every day, just as you brush your teeth? And how can we celebrate and move beyond ourselves? So what is the first step? The main keys that will characterize the wheel of diet for a life is alkalize, energize, and be the expert, which is what you're actually doing. In terms of the first step, nutrition, what I discovered is something that I'm sure it's not new. It's a correlation between the acidic lifestyle, which is so typical in our society, and obesity, inflammation, allergies, kidney dysfunction, loss of bone density, muscle mass, even cancer. Who is familiar with the acidity? I'm sure everybody is. Who has heard about it? Of course. Of course. So that's a confirmation. That's what I learned. So the first thing that these people have addressed to lose the weight and keep it is living a lifestyle that is alkaline. Robert Young is another expert that I've studied with, and whose products I highly recommend. And I know you're very interested in these products, and I didn't intend to give recommendations of this kind. But if you want products that really help alkalize your body, Robert Young has some of the best in this country. And what he said is anybody familiar with Robert Young? Yeah. Actually, he should be a speaker here. He said we should thank our fat, because without it we would be dead. And when I first heard that was a shock for me. So you mean the fat that is hanging around me is actually protecting me from dying, keeping me away from dying? That was an epiphany. The second thing that I also discovered was the correlation between high cholesterol level and alkalinity and acidity. And Robert Young actually reports that people have lost 50 pounds in 1 month and were able to reduce their cholesterol level from 420 to 250 in less than a month. So this is actually significant. And all he did was to massive alkalize these people's bodies and use essential fatty acids, of course, along with exercise and so on. So what is the recommendation with respect to alkalizing? Everywhere I go and talk about my book and my journey and so on, people ask me, well, how do you lose weight? What do you eat to lose weight and keep it off? Give it to me very simply. And what I've learned is actually the most important component is breathing. We walk around the world, we walk every day, and we breathe very shallowly. If you really become very conscious right now, how are you breathing? By breathing deeply, we oxygenate our bodies, and that alkalizes the body. It brings oxygen. Yes, it's such a simple thing, it's such a trivial thing, but most often in life, these are the most important things, and they are available. It doesn't cost anything. You don't have to buy anything. Just breathe. Go out in nature and connect with nature and breathe deeply. What I've also learned, something that I would like to share, because you want tricks, you want things here, and I would love to share that with you, is go every day for a couple of minutes, for 5 minutes, and walk around, breathing intensely, and tap your fingers. It's been research at Harvard done on the receptors at your fingers, and in tapping them, in acupuncture, they're familiar with that. You are actually activating various organs in your body. So what these people do that I've studied with for 3 years and kept their diet and their weight for more than 5 years, they walk around and breathe in this tempo. This is yogic breathing, and it brings more oxygen than you would imagine in a very, very short period of time. And we're all very short of time. When you sit in your office, those of you who are still working, or you sit and read or do something, just get up a couple of times a day and walk around for 5 minutes and do this intense breathing. Just walk around and do this. Yogic breathing, very important. The second thing is superhydration. Of course, we don't need to talk about this. We have this beautiful water here. I hope you are hydrating. What I've learned, 4 such bottles per day, never mind the green drink, which is part of it, we should drink in order to lose weight and alkalize the body. And I'm sure, who is familiar with this? Everybody? Nothing new? Yes? Great. The other thing is the 70-30 rule. And this is something that I don't know whether you do, but it's so simple. In radio interviews, if you were to walk around with 3 things here, it's breathing, hydrating, and the 70-30 rule. That's common sense. What does that mean, 70-30 rule? The body is made of 70% water. Now, every time we eat, and I recommend that to everybody, it doesn't matter. Every time you eat, look on your plate, and 70% of what you have there should be reflected in high water content foods. Everything else brings your body off balance. It's just as simple as that. 70% high water content foods, green leafy vegetables, 30% it could be a piece of meat if you like to eat meat, or carbohydrates. I don't recommend them. You will have Ellen Cutler. She's totally against grains. But a piece of meat or a piece of fish with salad and some vegetables, not overcooked, raw if possible. Then the other thing is proper food combining. There's a chart there. I have given the presentation in case anybody's interested. It is in the book as well. And please, use these books. Actually, these books are all a donation to Smart Life in case You know, just if you don't want to get a book, and it's up to you, Mike, whether you sell it or not. If you don't want to, if you don't think you don't need it for yourself, buy it and give it to somebody else. We live in a society where 3 people out of 4 are overweight and obese. It is a tragedy. And so what I've written in this book, it doesn't come from me. It came from the people that I've learned with. I am just the messenger here. I am somebody who really cares deeply about the society and about raising the levels of consciousness so that we finally break out of destroying ourselves and this planet. So essential fatty acids are extremely important. And another amazing human being that I have studied with is Udo Erasmus. Who has heard of Udo Erasmus? Yes, if you haven't used his products or read his book, please get them. Udo Erasmus looks at age 60, 65, I think, at like 45. He was diagnosed with heavy chemical poisoning back in his early life. He is a PhD in chemistry. He worked in a chemical environment, and he would have had to face cancer. And what he did when he was diagnosed with whatever disease, it wasn't cancer yet, but was going to turn into. And then what he did, he used all of his background to develop the essential fatty acids. Udo's oils, you find them at every single health food store, or what I do personally is the cheapest. You go to Amazon and look for Udo's oil, they ship it to you, is the cheapest, and it's wonderful. And what Udo Erasmus recommends, Udo Erasmus being, of course, also a consciousness leader, a fighter for peace. Fighter is not the right word, but he promotes peace. He is an amazing, extraordinary human being. I wish you could, if you can, go and meet him. He will enrich your life. So essential fatty acids are extraordinarily important. 6 soup spoons per day, 2 by every meal. That's what he personally recommends. Tablespoons, thank you. Not teaspoons. And of course, supplementation. And you know more about supplementation than I could ever talk about. What I personally found extremely important are enzymes. And the best enzymes that I came across were those by Ellen Cutler from Bioset, and she will be speaking next month. They are the purest, in my view. I have really spent a lot of time researching all of this, and that's the best that I identified. Now, exercise. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything new with respect to exercise. And when I asked Dr. Wally Bortz, who has heard of Wally Bortz, Walter Bortz, expert on geriatrics, Stanford professor, Stanford emeritus. He's another extraordinary expert, a dear friend, a neighbor actually of mine. Let me take a sip of water, and please take some yourself. By the way, the green drink here is from Robert Young. When I asked Wally Bortz, what is the best exercise, just in case you don't know, Wally Bortz is a marathon runner at age 77. He still runs marathons. And so I wanted to know, what is your exercise? How do you prepare for these marathons? How do you eat? Which is all in the book. The result of this research is in the book. And he said, for what kind of exercise? What is the best diet for what kind of? So it depends upon how much you exercise. And of course, I put this quote here by Socrates that no citizen has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. What a disgrace it is for a man to grow old without even seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. As you reflect about this, I wonder, have we all taken advantage of this beautiful body that we have? Do we honor it every single day? Those of you who maybe got annoyed by my original meditation may want to remember that we don't do that often enough to honor this. We spend most of our time in the head And I am one of them. I spend most of my time in the head. I have to make a conscious effort to really go and listen and honor the body, to go deeper. And many people, as you go deeper into meditation and contemplation and prayer, this is a beautiful church, beautiful energy, then all these sages will tell you that the longest road is that from the head to the heart. It's so hard for us. We have to make a conscious effort to do that. And exercise actually connects us with this beautiful, magnificent physical body that we have. We live in the most beautiful, beautiful creation of the universe, in our universe. And I got so excited about my new journey that I even became a marathon runner at age 44, believe it or not. I became insane about running. And who can tell me why? What happens when you run? Endorphin. Yay! But hey, why not? It makes me feel good. Why not? Why, I mean, it's better than any glass of wine, or I've never taken drugs, but hey, get those natural endorphins every day by going out in nature and connecting and communing with nature. Who has seen Eckhart Tolle on Oprah? Have you followed that? Oh my God, if you haven't, wow. I will never look again at a flower in the same way. And I can relate to what he's talking about. What basically, for those of you who haven't looked at the sessions that Oprah did with him, and she's still doing some more, he talks about a flower, to look at a flower without putting a label on what you see. Just honor. Take your hand right now and look at your hand in a way that you've never looked at. Consider that 100 trillion cells in your body are working in total unison right now to keep your hand up right now and your organs functioning and your brain functioning. This is a miracle. This is an amazing miracle. And when you go out in nature tomorrow or tonight, open up your heart. When you do this, open up your heart, look at everything, and all of a sudden you will see trees and flowers in a way that you've never seen before. You will connect with a different dimension in yourself, a different perception. We will stop beating ourselves and feeling that we're not worthy, that we need to do something else, something more. We need to get a different supplement, and hey, who's doing this and who's doing that? And yet, we have here the greatest pharmacy in the entire world. There are no side effects. There's everything that we need is in here. All we need is to unleash that power within in a different way. And yes, I also had to take thyroid. Yes, we all come to a point in our lives because we play these games often and over again that we deplete ourselves. Yes, we get to a point where we're not in balance anymore, and we have to do something about it. And yet, remember, that's less than 0.001% of the universe. But we spent 99.99% of our time, our attention, our brain on it, on those 0.001%. So, exercise, I can give you all the data. It's actually in the book. 2 hours TV per day. I hope you watch Oprah. It's worth it. However, the obesity risk goes up by 23%. I didn't know that. If you watch 2 hours per day TV, and computers are included, by the way, the obesity rate goes up by 23%, and the type 2 diabetes is 14% higher. This is what Wally Bortz tells us based on his research. Then there is another research done that says that unfit men risk diabetes 4 times more than fit men. Wow, isn't that amazing? Another research says that any amount of physical activity lowers the risk of new diabetes by 30%. And of course, what kind of exercise? Cardiovascular training. There are 3 types: cardiovascular, strength training, and of course, flexibility. And if you like yoga as the yogic exercise, or Pilates, I highly recommend it for one reason. It will slow you down. It will open your heart to a new dimension, to love and to life. It is just something that, you know, I could tell you forever how a mango tastes. If you've never tasted a mango, you will not know what I'm talking about. So all I can tell you, maybe that attracts you. Flexibility training to become more flexible and stay flexible so that you have access to a different dimension, to those 99.9% of reality. What I found very important is for those who have mastered overweight, obesity, and have reached the level of health and vitality that they have dreamt for before, is that they needed to change in their heads their identity of being an athlete. As long as you think, oh, but I'm not an athlete, I don't, you know, I'm not good at this, and so on, you will not get yourself to exercise. But the moment you declare, I am an athlete, I have everything, I mean, everybody who is impaired, I mean, we all have our little things, you know, I'm turning 50 this year, of course. We all have our things. And yet, we could still be an athlete. If I became a marathon runner at age 44, everybody can. Oops. Yeah. How often do you brush your teeth? Stupid question. 1 time? Twice a day, at least? How often do you take a shower? Especially today. How often have you cleansed your bowels? Cleansed. Bowel cleanse. Wow. Okay, then I guess I'm going to spend the rest of my talk about this. Look at this. This is what comes out of people's bowels. And I would like to give you some quotes. This is, just in case you cannot see, this is a glove, and this is the fecal, hardened fecal matter that came out of people's bowels. And just in case, I know this is very controversial. There are a lot of different opinions about this, and yet I can tell you as I stand here in front of you, this stuff exists. I've seen it. I have eliminated it. Dr. Harvey Kellogg from the Kellogg Sanitarium says that of the 22,000 operations I have personally performed, I have never found a single normal colon, and of the 100,000 that were performed under my jurisdiction, not over 6% were normal. All of the diseases of civilization are due to improper functioning of the colon. Dr. George Cryle, head of the Cryle Clinic in Cleveland, says, there is no natural death. All deaths that come from so-called natural causes are merely the end point of progressive acid saturation. However, if they would take care of their body and cleanse their colon and intestines, their problems would be pretty much eliminated, and they could eliminate their cross by proper diet, proper exercise, and, in general, proper living. Dr. Bernard Jensen, who actually promoted, who's familiar with Bernard Jensen? Who promoted this notion of mucoid plaque, wrote, one autopsy revealed a colon to be 9 inches in diameter, with a passage through no larger than a pencil. The rest was caked up. I don't know how to pronounce that. Yep, sounds like Kacke in German. Layer upon layer of encrusted fecal material. This accumulation can have the consistency of truck tire rubber. It's hard and black. Another autopsy revealed a stagnant colon to weigh in an incredible 40 pounds. So, I hope that this will bring you a better idea about what else needs to be done in order to not only lose weight but gain life and create health and vitality. So secret number 3 is cleansing and detoxification. And I understand that you have had here Dr. Elson Haas, who is the expert that I have also studied with and did many things with along this line. And cleansing and detoxification is important because it supports the body, supports itself, heal itself. And we are just as healthy as our cells are. So it begins as a cell at the cellular level. And through cleansing and detoxification, we support the body to cleanse at the cellular level. Why? Because we live in a society, and we all know, that is imbalanced. And here are a few environmental factors that contribute to creating that poisonous environment. And when I began my journey, I had been diagnosed with 4 different parasites that were living. Imagine in the picture that you've seen, imagine having something like that in your bowels. And I believe that by being vegetarian for 15 years prior to this journey, that I had actually done the right thing. And I wouldn't have such a thing in my bowels. Well, little did I know, what came out of me was something that was green. It wasn't black, because I ate so many greens, but it was still there. Yes, and it can be eliminated. It's called mucoid plaque. And for those of you who are interested, I didn't have it in my presentation. It is in my book. There are many programs who do that. The best that I would personally recommend is Richard Anderson, and I write about that in my book. He has a particular program that helps the colon cleanse. So maybe if there is interest, this could be another topic to be addressed in this. So to eliminate the environmental factors inside the body, such as improper nutrition, metabolic dysfunction, pain, mindset, what we put in our heads, of course, creates all the garbage and the junk and bad and negative thoughts, lifestyle, parasites, and outside the body, pollution, water, air, food, cosmetics, peer group. We're just as happy and joyous as our peers. It's very, very important, and you have created here a beautiful peer group. So, how do you know if you should detoxify? Well, there are several things. Overweight and obesity if you go to the Optimum Health Institute, we talked about this over dinner. That's exactly what they're doing. They detox, and they do colon cleansing. Colon hydrotherapy is a beautiful way to cleanse. I am somebody who really uses. I don't trust everybody, and I need to know myself first. I'm a scientist, so I have to get the data, I have to look at the research, and so on. However, what I had to learn, and that's why I emphasize the interior aspect, is I had to look within and to learn how to listen to what my body tells me. And if it feels good, it's good for me. After having my first colon hydrotherapy, I felt like $1,000,000. You will not. It's something that is not part of our society. That's not what we do. Under normal circumstances, in older society, people used to fast. They used to do these things. An enema was normal. But we don't do that. And yet we live in a society that is more poisonous than ever. So even more important that we do the cleansing. I see people leave and I see other people hide there. This is not a very pleasant topic. However, because of that, we need to address it. So here are the few things: frequent headaches, back pain or joint pain, and of course there are many other reasons that can lead to that. But bloated, I was bloated, congestion, and so on. All the cleansing leads to empowering the body to bring back the balance that is natural for us without any medical intervention. So allergies, food cravings, for instance, I tend to have allergies to this day, and I've learned from these people, from these experts, cleansing, doing a fast for twice a year for 5 days, fasting helps, and during that I do an enema. And if I have access to, there aren't many organizations here in the area who do colon hydrotherapy, but there are a few. So please go and look into this. What is this? Who has an idea about what that is? You should, of course. Live blood test, yes. This is how my live blood test looked like before I went on a cleanse. Well, what is this? What you see, of course, are the crystals, because I had a cold and I took stuff. White blood cells was trying to eat something there. Very slow movement. My white blood cells were moving very slowly. The red blood cells were, clogged up together and deformed. So those of you who are medical doctors in here, what does that mean? Loud, please. Say it again.
Real low, clumping in the red blood cells.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, this is not a pretty picture. This is not healthy. But this is what most of us actually walk around with. These are blood cells. They should be, how should they be? They must be round. Exactly, and plump. I was iron deficient. I had B12 deficiency. How long does it take to be B12 deficient, to become B12 deficient? I learned that it takes 5 years to deplete the resources in the body of B12. And this is how my blood looked like after 4 days of fasting, just to give you an idea. Dr. Guilford does live blood test here in this area. He is my doctor. So it is worth looking into it. And how you feel, use your common sense again. Just like with the 70-30 rule. My body is high water content. This needs to be reflected. The same thing here. Cleansing it, detoxification. Ask your doctor. I never recommend anyone who hasn't done a cleanse before to do it without a group. Dr. Elson Haas does these things regularly. Just call his office and join his groups. He will coach you. It doesn't matter, you don't have to be, I don't think you don't have to be nearby. He's up in San Rafael. Don't fast alone. Prepare, it's extremely important, the pH level. The pH level, you're familiar with it. That's how we measure the acid-alkaline balance. We have to have a constant, a little slightly alkaline, level 7.34 on a scale between 0 and 14. In order to fast, most people are about 6, very acidic. Measure yours. Go those pH, get those pH stripe. There's a company called phion.com, I think. Get those, or anywhere, and pee on the stick every morning and see how your urine is, how acidic you are. That will give you a clue about how you're doing health-wise. And that's something that we could all do. And if you want to fast, you need to become alkaline before you go on a fast. Why? Because the body takes the opportunity to throw all the junk from where it is stored in the fat cells, for instance. That's why you have to collect fat to protect the inner organs from acidity. Now, when the body doesn't have to spend all this energy digestion, the digestive process, which takes most of the energy in the body, how do we know? How do we know that most of the energy in the physical body goes into digestion in a normal person? What happens when you're sick and you don't get diarrhea because you're sick? You get constipated. Why? Because the body needs to focus, to take that energy and focus onto healing. That's why we get constipated. And of course, once we take the load, because we begin to fast, the body throws all the toxins from throughout the body into the elimination organs, which is the bloodstream, the urine, the skin. That's why we stink during fasting, breathing, the lungs, and so on. And of course, that produces a lot of acidity in the body. That's why you have to be very alkaline so that you don't degenerate. Actually, this talk should have been on this topic. I didn't plan on it, but I'd be happy to give more. Is this something of interest to you? I'm very flexible. Okay, good. So prepare. Make sure it's actually quite easy to prepare. It is quite easy. Just begin to do the breathing that I recommended, although it sounds so trivial and unimportant. It is very important. Do the exercise. Drink 4 bottles of water like this per day, and for a week. Actually, in my book, I don't recommend any menus because I don't believe in diets, but to prepare for a cleanse, I recommend a menu for a week. Basically, eat salads for a week, something that really will alkalize your body, and drink green drink. You have this beautiful, wonderful, high pH water, 10 pH water. That's exactly what you need to alkalize. Thank you. I know.
So you're putting something in there to alkalize.
I do. It's called Prime pH. I get it from Dr. Robert Young, but you know, if you have a machine like that, you're fine. You're done. Yeah. So, but it's extremely important to prepare. Then the next thing, you should not be hungry when you're fasting. Most people are like, my God, you know, I have to work. I have to eat. I cannot go to work and you know, I have to eat. If you're hungry when you're fasting, you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't be hungry. Remember our ancestors? They used to fast, sometimes for an entire month. It was usually before Easter. Well, the reason why they fasted was because they ran out of food. And so that was a way, you know, to get some time, you know, to win some time until the new food was growing. But the real reason was also to cleanse, to reach higher levels of consciousness, of understanding, to prepare. And that's what kept them healthy too. So for us, it's no problem whatsoever to go on a fast for 5 days. If you know how you do it, and it's actually the best thing you've ever done to yourself. Extremely important is to cleanse your bowels. One of the reasons why people say, I started to fast, I did fast for 1 day, and then I felt so terrible, I had to stop. Fasting does not work for me. And what they encountered was the so-called healing crisis. What is the healing crisis? The healing crisis is the body makes the shift, eliminates all the toxins that it can at the time, and it goes through a crisis before it gets healthy again. It's good. Don't give up. When you have a headache, when you fast, or when you have a headache today, for instance, go and take an enema. Yes, we shouldn't be laughing about these things. Remember the quote that I gave you. It's something that is not part of our culture, but you do brush your teeth every day, you do take a shower every day. How often do you cleanse on the inside? But you put all kinds of toxins in the body, voluntarily or not. Not you, us. So we have to do something about it. And taking an enema takes the junk out of the colon and takes the headache basically away. It's amazing. These correlations didn't make sense to me in the beginning, and I sound like really strange, like the people that I used to laugh at. Now I sound myself like that, but hey, I've gone through it, I've lived it, I've studied with these people who have achieved it all, and here's the result. And last but not least, breaking a fast is more important than going into a fast or fasting. Why? Because how we teach the stomach to digest right after the fast is how it'll go on afterwards. So if you start putting a lot of food and eating fast and hastily and go, back into the old routine, that's how you will continue. So your opportunity to change new habits is right then and there. Be very kind to yourself. I talk about this in my book as well, and I'm just one person about this, so if you really want to go into the research, please do that. Now we're coming to the part 2 of the consciousness leadership paradigm, and that is the internal part. And I'd like to introduce that with a quote by William James. How much time do I have? About 10 minutes? Thank you. A quote by William James. Most people live, whether physically, intellectually, or morally, in a very restricted circle of their potential being. They make use of a very small portion of their possible consciousness. We all have reservoirs of life to draw upon, of which we don't dream. And we get access to this the moment we look onto the inside. When we decide that there are other dimensions to life that we have not considered. Because we spend time in wanting to acquire, be mine, I want this, I want this. But the moment we decide to go and ask, why do I want that? We access different dimensions. That's the emotional dimension, the spiritual dimension. Because actually, what we really want, what I wanted, was not multiple homes and every single car that BMW would want to manufacture. What I wanted was the feeling that I hope to get from that. What we want is not a job. We don't want dollars with deceased notables, papers, on them. We want the feeling that we associate from having that particular thing. And that's the dimension that I would kindly encourage you to bring, to focus on a little bit. Especially because all these people that I have studied with and about, that's exactly what helps them create that integral life. And so the next steps, step number 4 is live your purpose. And along this line is, of course, what is your purpose? And along the line, exterior, interior, we have an interior purpose and we have an exterior purpose. The exterior purpose is to be a doctor, to be a mother, to be a father, to be a career woman, to be a speaker, to be whatever. And the interior purpose is something that really takes us beyond this life. We come from someplace and we go into someplace. And I grew up as an atheist, and I'm not teaching you God here. I am just trying to bring a different dimension into the viewpoint that has to do with the place that we all going to go tonight when we are in a deep, dreamless sleep. Where do we go? Have you ever asked yourself? Where do you go when you are in this dreamless sleep? That you come out of and you're totally renewed. Interesting question. It's worth exploring, isn't it? So these people who have succeeded, they go beyond the diet and the exercise and the cleansing, and they ask themselves, what is the purpose of my life? If I'm on purpose, then I want to have the body that supports me to fulfill that purpose. I want to be healthy. I want to be vital. I want to be able to serve beyond myself. I want to be of service. I want to move and to be a mover and a shaker. I've been given the gift of this life. There must be a bigger meaning to it. So who am I? What is my identity? These are the questions that are important and these people have addressed in order to create that wheel of life and keep it in balance. Secret number 5 is actually one of the most important ones, is the emotional mastery. We could take all kinds of vitamins and go to doctors and have access to extraordinary resources. In this room alone, I am so amazed. And yet, when we go out and somebody cuts you off, how do we react? Where do we live emotionally? Because no diet, no thing, nothing will make us happy if we're not making ourselves happy. But where does this come from, this happiness, this joy? Work doesn't come from the thoughts. Because the thoughts can be this way or the other. Not even positive thinking. You have to think. Think. But emotions cannot be interfered with by thinking. So the power of now, being here, connecting with who you are, and there are 3 things that people who master their emotions do on a regular basis. And I would like to focus on something that they have, on gratitude. And that's what keeps them going through life. The second thing, they use an empowering language. They don't say, oh, I don't know, I don't know where to go. They're positive, the language. And then the body. And of course, relationship mastery is another thing. Now, I would like to, if you bring forth what is inside of you, what you bring forth will save you. If you don't bring forth what is inside of you, what you don't bring forth will destroy you. And this was by Jesus of Nazareth. So, do you bring forth what's inside of you? And I gave you a little pamphlet here, and we might have 5 more minutes to do this. And what this is supposed to be is a little checklist for you. If these are the areas of your life, oops, sorry, I keep pushing the. If these are the areas of your life, and these are some areas that I picked. Health and vitality, which is something that is so important in this circle. Career. For me, it was finances and career. Psychology or emotional mastery. Magic life. I have some interference. Relationship, philanthropy, soul and spirit. Look at what areas, you can replace these areas with any one that is important to you. Where are you in your life? Let's say this is 100%. This is 0 and this is 100%. If you were to rate this, go quickly around the wheel of life, the wheel of your life. Everyone focuses on, has a body, health and vitality, the career, finances. I don't know if you have a career, focus on it or not. Emotional mastery. How far are you? Are you a master of your emotions or not? And draw a line. Do you create a magic life? Do you go on vacation? Do you create fun with your family? Do you do something that, creates joy and laughter? This is a magic life. You don't have to have money to create a magic life. Do you do that? Do you have fun? From 0 to 100. Just draw a line. Just draw a line where you are. Are you at 50% or not? Are you a master in emotion? Do you master your emotions? How are you doing with that? Is it where you would like to be, or is it maybe here, or maybe 100%? Some people are further, some are less. Financially, where do you want to be? Nobody does it. Okay. It is a good exercise, and I know it is late, but the intention of this is if you draw a line and you see where you are, in one area you might be, in this group probably most people are very good here, health and vitality. You know a lot about your body, you have that under control more or less. Career probably also, otherwise you wouldn't be here. You are leaders in your field, you wouldn't be here. Finances probably also. We're very blessed to be in this part of this world. Soul and spirit. And if you create that, then you will get an idea about where you are and where you want to be. And the difference between where you are and where you want to be is where your resources go. And this is what keeps you awake at night. And the question is, how bumpy is your ride? Because integral living means that all areas that are important to you in your life have to be in balance. Otherwise, you will always have the sense that something is not right, that something is missing, that there is something else for you to do. And unless you address these areas and keep them in balance, you may not attract the joy and the happiness in your life that you deserve. So, what causes consciousness evolution? process over time, or some people just have a near-death experience, or some people have just study, and all of a sudden they get a new understanding. So sustainable happiness is indeed possible. However, the significant problems we face today cannot be solved by the level of thinking that created them. So we need to get a different understanding, and I hope that through this presentation I was able to guide you a little bit into looking at different aspects and bring some different insights into the brain-driven sessions here. So, in summary, we have looked at nutrition, the 8 steps to integral living, nutrition, exercise, detoxification, how to live a life of meaning, what is your goal, how can you be in line with it, how can you create emotional mastery in fitness, how can you create a habit, because you can lose the weight, you can take those supplements, but if you don't do that every day, and it becomes second nature, you cannot sustain it. Then step 6 is your life. Know what you want and go after it. And last but not least, celebrate. We don't take enough time to celebrate, to be joyous, to laugh. That's why children, I was amazed when I first came in this country, and I saw on one part of the city the elderly home and the hospitals, and then you see all these women who drop their kids off at some people who don't even speak English just because they have to go to work, and their parents are someplace spread out. And yet, these elderly would love to spend time with youngsters, with children, to stay young. But we live in a world that's gone mad. Well, we pay to go to a movie that scares us to death. Yeah, that we pay to get indoctrinated with media, with advertisements, with all kinds of things that we have no control over. Imagine you would come from outer space and you would look at our society. What would you think of it? I mean, why would you go and watch TV for all this bad news? You pay newspaper, pay for it, right? To get all this, and you feel terrible. Like, what's going on? But we are all co-creating it. And so consciousness leadership is to take responsibility. And really, you are leaders. You have moved to levels of consciousness that most people on this planet don't have. And with that knowledge and with that understanding, we have a moral responsibility to go out and help other people move to similar levels of understanding. And I'd like to finish with a little parable from Japan. A monk, there was a monk once, and a samurai went to him and saw him and said, "Well, teach me about hell and heaven." The monk looked at him and said, "Teach you about hell and heaven? You stink. You are abrasive. You are impolite. Get out of my face. You are a disgrace to humankind." The samurai heard that and pulled his sword and was about to slay the monk. When the monk looked into his eyes, when he saw, oh my God, he saw his compassion and love and dropped his sword. And the monk said to him, "This was hell." When the samurai realized that he was about to slay the monk, when the only thing that he was doing was to teach him the lesson, he dropped onto his knees and started crying. And the monk told him, "This is heaven." Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you. I hope you live in heaven.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. If there's any questions,
是吗？
it's, 好 Okay, there we go. Are there any questions? We've got about 5 minutes before we have to leave the building. Yeah, it's in the back.
What kind of foods would you recommend when you're coming off the fast?
Coming off the fast, I usually recommend apples, a few slices of apples, and to begin with, and some prunes. If you have the dried prunes, soak them overnight because that gets apples and prunes, either or, not both of them, of course, help the digestive system get back into functioning again. And then, of course, soups. You know, for lunch, that's how you start in the morning, and then for lunch, you can have a little soup with udos oil in it. You can, you know, not only the broth, which you usually drink during the fast, but, you know, you can now eat some of the vegetables. But it's always extremely important that we eat consciously. It's very important when we eat to eat consciously anyways, but especially after the fast. So meditating on every single bite is so important, and you will notice after fasting that food tastes so good. Does this answer your question? In my book, I also have a menu for the first week after a fast, in case you're interested in the appendix.
Okay, one more question. You had your hand up first.
If you do feel hunger during a fast, what are you doing wrong?
Drink water.
Just drink water?
Drink water, and what I usually do, I am a thin person. And I usually have a very, you know, cold hands, and I'm freezing a lot. I have to have it warm. So when I go on a fast, I usually am very cold, colder than normal. So what I do, I drink a lot of udos oil. And what I take an orange or a lemon and squeeze it with udos oil, and that helps me. It's totally okay. Actually, it's encouraged. You have to, because those essential fatty acids help the rebuilding new cells.
You had a question.
Yeah, I was just curious if you've heard under the detoxification about some patches. I've been reading some things about some patches that you put on their feet.
Under the skin.
And that they take. Have you came across any kind of?
I did, and John Gray, the question is whether I had heard of some patches that you put under your feet or that would enable the detoxification through the feet. I have heard of them. I have never used them. John Gray, another person that I've studied with and who has spoken here and who's also very great on healing and exercise and detoxification, I went to his ranch. And he has these devices there, so I would highly encourage you, if you want to do some kind of a cleanse, like a slow cleanse, not really a cleanse, but a good week spent with him, and use these devices. He has the most magnificent and up-to-date devices in the world. Get in touch with these organizations, get in touch with me if you want, and I would be happy to refer you to his ranch. He's up in north of Mendocino. And he is an extraordinary person. He knows so much about this area as well. He's a master. Yes?
Anything else?
Marianne, there's so much you said that is wonderful and that I agree with, but there's something that I have questions about it, and that's this mucoid plaque.
Yes.
And the reasons I have questions is because, now it might be that some people have that, but I'm thinking you're saying that most people have it and periodically must remove it, right?
Not I say that. What you heard from me is what the research that I've done, what I've learned from people who, experts.
Yeah, but you didn't give us any research. And here's why I doubt it. Because when you have a colonoscopy,
Yes.
they have you fast. And of course, fasting is very good for you. Anyway, there's lots of evidence on that.
Yes.
And why it's good. But when you have a colonoscopy, they have you fast because they want to be able to see the surface of the colon to determine if there are polyps. If there was mucoid plaque, they couldn't see the polyps. A colonoscopy would be an impossible procedure. But it's not impossible. Therefore, I conclude that we don't usually have mucoid plaque. Now, my mother had diverticulitis, she showed me a picture of her colon. And to my surprise, it didn't look like a sewer. It was pink and looked quite healthy, other than the fact that she had the diverticulitis.
So you're leaving out the part about the flush that occurs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think when you move your bowels, you clean your bowels. The bowel is not covered with, debris and mucoid plaque, in my opinion. I would like to know, what is the evidence for mucoid plaque?
Well, I can say something
Please.
on that for you. A lot of people who don't have their colonoscopies and end up being really sick, those are the ones that nothing's been done, and there's mucoid plaque. You can look in a lot of medical books and you can see it, and you can see the samples. Certainly you're cleaning out when you're doing a colonoscopy, and that's great, but all those people who don't do it,
John Wayne.
and yes,
Yeah.
you end up with a whole lot of junk in your body.
Fiber.
Yeah.
If you're doing high fiber, you should be.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that
If you're a
work.
vegetarian,
But
you're still not a
let's
problem.
face it, let's look at
But
the
you're
typical,
probably doing what cheeses, you're eating something.
and look at what the typical person eats.
Pasta.
And look at the typical American, and, you can understand why they're seeing mucoid plaque.
Yes, that's the most frequent feedback that I get on this. It can be seen on colonoscopy, and that's the answer. People who actually would have to have it, they don't go and do a colonoscopy. And the truth of the matter also is, and I just happen to be a venture capitalist, I also invest in company. I have invested in a company that develops a device that makes it simpler to do, because it's not an easy procedure. A lot of injury can be done. And the problem is that even if you have fasted, for instance, for 2 weeks or so, and you do an enema, or colon hydrotherapy, you still find a lot of junk that comes out of the colon. It's amazing how stuff that's been sitting there for decades, and of course, those places, and you can't see it all through colonoscopy. Besides, if you remember the picture that I showed you, it has the exact same form like the colon. And it takes a while for the mucoid plaque to release. So it's not that you put it in there, you do the fasting and then all of a sudden it's a certain procedure. You have to take certain herbs. How do I know? This guy, Richard Anderson, what he did, he was actually diagnosed with cancer and was sentenced to death by his doctor. And he was only given a couple of weeks. So what he did, he went into the woods, he grabbed his friend, an Indian doctor, a shaman, and said, well, let's go into the woods and into the mountains, because he loved them. And he went into the Rockies. And what they did, they ate from nature, because, they're going to die, who cares? So they ate what they found. They drank from the springs and ate the herbs and all of that. And after a while, they began eliminating these things, inch by inch and feet by feet. And they kept coming up, because, it's something that is holds together, a string. And then of course, he didn't die. He went back to his life. He felt better than ever. And then what he did, he went back into nature with his friend who knew these plants that they were eating to identify what exactly had caused that elimination. So for those of you who are interested, I'm sure Richard Anderson, he's written several books himself. Rise and Shine is his organization, and he can give you all the data. And I gave you the references that I quoted also in my book, and there's plenty more. And I understand the medical community, like in every case, when you come up with something that is new, that has not been here before, there's not a lot of money to be made when people cleanse their colons and become healthy and don't have cancer anymore. So, yeah. But this is something that I'm really also very interested in. Yes?
It's a comment, not a question. But Richard Anderson also has a very good support group. So while you're fasting in his program, if you have any questions, I think you can call like 24/7.
Yes.
A great support group right there. He doesn't have to go to the doctor.
Thank you. Yes. By the way, he is a naturopath, I think, ND. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a question. Have you or anyone in here heard of a type of diet where you eat once a day and then nothing in between?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Bring that to the forum next month. Maybe someone else, when it maybe won't be so hot and there'll be more people. You might have some information.
And again,
I've done it.
you have.
And so, I mean, I want to share. It gives me more energy, whatnot. A rash on my skin has gotten lower. So I don't know. I was just wondering if anyone's done it, and it doesn't sound like it, but it's so rare. I guess it's more Muslim is what it is, and so it's kind of rare. So I could probably find out in that community.
Well, that's how people ate. If you go to Buddhists, if you go into the poorer countries, they get a rice of rice once a day. That's what they eat, and it's perfectly okay with them. However, living in this culture, again, this is a no diet book. I don't believe in diet, so just drop the notion. We know so much about what the body needs and how it should be fed, and that's what we need to do. And all of a sudden, that's what I did. You never have to worry about anything and pay money for a diet. Thank you. But what you're doing is actually what most people on this planet do. If they're lucky, they get 1 meal per day. Yes, please.
You had a question, and so I just wanted to ask for clarification. You said to decreasing essential fatty acids during the fast, or is that after?
Yes. During the fast.
How much?
2 tablespoons 3 times per day. However, this is what Uda Erasmus recommends. Again, common sense. How does your body respond? Personally, I can take 6 tablespoons per day during the winter time because I need more heat. During the summer, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Your body knows. And this is what I can say, common sense. Do whatever your body feels. However, having said that, I also need to say that a body off balance will tell you the wrong thing. So the body, have to be somewhat cleansed in order to develop that voice, to hear the small voice within.
I think we've covered it all.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
And I hope we see everyone.